They both had that connection to each other the night the mom died.
We sometimes forget that the universe is out there, and I think we get so caught up in just our day-to-day things, like the noise that's around us, right? It's the noise of traffic, the noise of music, the noise of social media, the noise of everything, that we don't stay still enough to really fully understand this. And I think through our dreams, we were able to be more listening. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to the Munch Corner. I'm Omar, one of your hosts, and this is my beautiful wife, Savannah. And she is relaxed today. She has a head start on her Klatch little spritzer. I also have a small head start on my iced coffee, considering it is warm out there.
So we have a mystery date today. No one knows what date it is, but we do.
Yes.
It is our wedding anniversary.
So it's a great day.
But the day of this launching is not our wedding anniversary, but we're enjoying the day nonetheless.
We are, and we've just wanted to share some of these wonderful things that we have found with you. And so today we are bringing you some very interesting stories, and this ties into some of the commentary we've made, I think, over a long period of time. So we've titled this episode to be When the Unexplained is Your Life. So these are stories that people have shared, and our source today is, funnily enough, called the Bored Panda. So
it's a great name.
So they do have some interesting stories that they kind of collect back and forth. But these are stories that share experiences that we can't fully explain in our lives. And I think we've alluded to the fact that there's a lot more to the universe than just us being here.
And we have covered quite a few strange stories, so let's see how much stranger we could possibly get.
Well, I don't know if these are much stranger, but I think they do have an unexplained side to them that depends on how you view the world, and we'll see what the reaction is from the group. And our first story is aptly named The Bus Ride, and this is a little bit longer, but it's well worth it. So we'll go ahead and get started. So the author is writing this way, so I'm going to be reading from her perspective here. So I've lurked on Reddit for memes for 5 years.
It's time to stop. It's time to stop, okay?
And this is the first post that I've made and need to sign up because I have a story to tell. Growing up, I had an acquaintance called, quote unquote, M. That's to keep the innocence. We went to the same church, the same school, but I was 2 years older than M. And when you're 5, that's a world of difference. I would agree. When you're 5, it's 2 years. Is huge. So I was aware of M's existence the same way I was aware of the sun. That tells you a lot. You know it's warm, but you really don't look at it. It's very cutely written. So I happily passed through high school without thinking much of M as a person of interest in my life. But when I was 28, having gone to college and loved and worked just as everyone else has until I had a dream. I was sitting on a bus next to a woman. She was older than I remembered. Her dark hair streaked with gray and was shorter than I had remembered the last time I'd seen her. But it must have been 20 years since I've seen M's mother. But it was her. She was wearing a pair of dark slacks and a crimson sweater with a fixed button on one shoulder. So it's a very specific dream. The bus was old. It smelled odd. Its vinyl seats creaked when it shuddered and screeched to a halt on the side of the road. In my dream, I stood up, but someone on the other side of M's mother's made me stand too. It was M herself. I took her hand and we walked off the bus. Turning around, I saw M's mother give me a shallow wave as the doors hissed closed and the bus roared away from the curb and motored on down the street. I blinked awake. It was 6:30 a.m. and I couldn't go back to sleep because the dream was so vivid. After showering coffee, I picked up my phone and checked my social media. A friend of a friend of a friend had posted that M's mother had died that morning after an elective surgery gone wrong that lasted most of the night. So maybe it could have been a coincidence or deja vu, whatever mental exercise my mind needed to go through that morning. But something had triggered in those days leading up to it And I don't know what it did to me. I'm going to leave the other word that she added in there up in this morning. I could not even send my condolences the same way I would do to all friends and all friends I had done before or had done before. I honestly just wanted to ignore it all happened. Then 2 days later, I was filling up my gas tank at a pump number 7, and then I saw her at pump number 3. M had come home to take care of her mother's affairs. She was wearing a pair of black jeans, paired up with a deep red sweater and an ivory colored button holding both sides of the shoulders together. So very similar to what was in her mother's thing. But I honestly can't explain what happened next. The awkward hellos led to long coffee dates and moved from home, from the big city, moving into her mother's house. And for the first time, I held her hand. I felt like it was in a dream. We married 2 years later. I never told her what I saw on the bus. I didn't want to sound crazy. Honestly, for a long time, I forgot all about it. And so we got a cat. Cats are always mysterious creatures. The cat
Yes,
had a
they
habit
are.
of staring out long, long hours at one corner in the house every night. Maybe he sees a ghost, I said idly. And then we had a long conversation, the possibility of ghosts and spirits and whatever. I thought a lot about her mother. Can I tell you something strange? Em said. The night my mother died, I had a dream, and you were holding my hand.
Wow.
It's a great story.
They both had that connection to each other the night the mom died.
And that's what makes the story beautiful to me.
Yes, so it's not just a random dream out of the blue, but it was actually in some ways their energies, I think,
I think
reaching
it
out to
was.
each other.
And so this one touched me a lot because it feels like we sometimes forget that the universe is out there. And I think we
Mm,
get so caught up in just our day-to-day things like the noise that's around us, right? It's the noise of traffic, the noise of music, the noise of social media, the noise of everything, that we don't stay still enough to really fully understand this. And I think through our dreams, we're able to be more listening.
I think unfortunately, like you said, in today's life, you wake up by alarms or you wake up with the need to get something done or get
It
going.
is
So you
the
don't stop and give it a moment to actually think about what it is you are feeling. Or you forget so quickly you can't remember.
and this is a story of connection, right? And so we've talked
Wow.
about our connection, and across oceans and everything else. This is a story of connection between time and place, which is beautiful.
Yes.
So it ties into, I think, very much our spirituality and how we view the world and how our souls are connected and what soul families really are. And I think these two have found that. I mean, they found it in
Very much.
themselves. They found it through a connection that was brought back together through a very strong mother figure. This is a beautiful story. So,
Well, I love, unfortunately, obviously, grief is a very hard thing to go through. And I love that grief can bring people together in some ways as well.
I think to me, it's a story of journey. We've and I've experienced loss. I've lost my father, and I've lost my sister. Um, and both losses were very hard, but they're still connected to us. And I would have to share that they're connected to us in dreams. That's
Mhm.
my dad is the one who makes me smile the most because he seems to show up in my dreams. It's the only analogy I can give you is I've seen it a little bit of like in Marvel movies, which is very bizarre, where you see, um, I mean, you basically see a main character just sort of sitting on the side there. Um, and in my particular case, it's my dad. I mean, it's like, so the dream is not about my father, but he's there, he's present, but it's like everything is happening around and he's just sitting on the sofa somewhere watching it. And it's the most amusing thing, but it's still a connection that I share with him, and it's very unexpected. So, I mean, for those of you who may not be complete, believers or anything like this, I'm hoping that we can encourage you to feel like there is something more out there than I think our day-to-day things that we can't explain. So this is why the unexplained is I think a way for us to see that giant mosaic that we get little pieces
And I
over a
don't
period of
think
time.
it's necessarily going to go and find something, but rather than just waiting and
Being open.
feeling.
Yeah.
You need to be more present in being able to feel what's around you rather than blocked off with distractions.
I think so too. So
And you'll probably not know it, but it's been there the whole time, and now you're gonna start noticing it.
I think so. So I love that story. That's a beautiful one. So it's a great one to start off.
Wow.
The other ones are
Yes.
shorter, but they are also very powerful connections that we have with others, beyond, I think, what we would normally be able to explain. Hence the unexplained part of this.
And I will say to the audience, I know we've been out here for quite a few episodes, and a lot of people will not understand Omar's and I's relationship.
Yeah.
But this is where a story like this, I think, touches us at our core, because we do have a very unconventional, untraditional relationship, but it's much more than just face value than what you're seeing right now.
That's
And
very
it is
true.
through stories like this that we hope that you learn a little bit more about us and can understand. And in the future, should you guys be interested, we'd love to share our personal story as well
I think so.
of meeting each other and remembering each other, if I'll put it that way. So
That's a very
little
good hint.
teaser.
That's a great little teaser.
Okay.
Remember each other.
Mm-hmm.
So the second story also has a really wonderful twist to it, and unexpected. So this one is called Imaginary Friend. So imagine all of our kids out there. I eventually sometimes have imaginary friends. And I think parents oftentimes will turn around and say, okay, and they'll outgrow it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But kids, I will tell you, are very unfiltered for a lot of reasons. However, they're also not filtered into saying what should or should not be. So they just sort of accept what the energy is around them. So maybe, I guess I'm saying not all imaginary friends are as imaginary as you
Nope.
might believe. So
To an adult, yes.
to an adult.
But not to a child.
All right, so I'll start this story out. As a kid, I had an imaginary friend who I would play with a lot. I had very few real friends, it's quote unquote, but I was also more of an outcast in daycare and kindergarten. So sometimes that imaginary friend was all I had. So that's very cute. Sometimes a little sad to hear that. My mother said that I'd always describe him as very similar looking. So describing himself. When I was around preschool age, my mother said we needed to talk about my friend. And I said that I'm fine with keeping Joshua, friend's name, around because I was scared of starting school alone. So it's a very cute little thing. Her face just froze in shock, and she never brought it up again. I didn't realize until my grandma explained years later that I had a twin brother who never made it, and my parents were planning on naming him Joshua.
Mm.
The only logical explanation I have is I picked up on it when I was very little, but my grandma said that my parents literally never talked about it because they didn't cope well with loss. It's still very strange. I'm going to have to say his brother found him. I think that's at a core, and it's a twin. So it's even stronger connections that we see. Twins are fascinating to me because they have something that the rest of us, I don't think, could even understand. I think all the things I've seen on twins, particularly identical twins, that they almost seem to finish each other's sentences and they're able to share the same thoughts, and
But
they connect.
scientifically as well, there's no really rational explanation for.
There isn't. I mean, and they are,
Identical.
as effectively a clone or a duplicate of the other one, and that connection is huge. We've seen some very unusual stories that we sort of cherish. We love the idea of twins, so I'll throw this out here. So I think one of these days we think the universe will smile at us and think we're really funny, and we think we might have a growing family, and all of a sudden we get twins.
Who knows? But
So
you know what? That is an incredibly touching story.
it is.
I
hope that their connection never fades.
I have no doubt that the little boy picked up on a name probably as a child, but projecting out an entire energy and
well, it's a persona. I mean,
being.
there's everything. There's
You don't make up this entire personality by yourself or the
No.
appearance. That is And the fact that unfortunately this child grew up not really having friends, his twin brother
Was everything.
was there for him.
Yeah. And I think so we ended the story with him basically not knowing what to do with this, right? So, I mean, if we had words to give him, the story to me would be, it is your brother. And he's there, and he's always going to be there. He's a soul connection to you. Don't ever lose that. I mean, and I think if you're open to keeping your heart and your soul connected to what's beyond, I would say, just the immediate, the noise again, I think you're able to really
I
turn
would turn
around
around and
and
say like materialistic, just something that's anyone you can see and touch and feel.
but it's more than that. I think there's a lot of people that I think they get confused. Let's put it this way. I think they look at connections and energy, and they try to place it into a construct that oftentimes to me is religion.
Yes, I can see
And
that.
so there is spirituality in religion. There's no doubt about it in my mind, and all religions, not just any single one in particular. But there's something beyond that, and I think that's the part that I think exists in every single formalized religion. However, it's not really discussed very much, and I think that's a miss. But I do also understand that there's a construct that makes religion the structure it is, right? And that's, I'm going to basically say, it's a man-made construct, or human-made. When we start looking at the spirituality beyond that and the connections that we would have, we can really start seeing there's much more out there. And I love the fact that there is. And so I'm hoping that, we don't know the author's name, but he and his brother are able to still keep that connection throughout their lifetimes, and realizing that there will be another time where they will be once again together and connected. And maybe it's not this lifetime, it might be the next.
It's wonderful.
So our next story,
is it another tearjerker?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. At least I can brace myself now.
To varying degrees. No, I did not let Savannah know what we were going to cover today. I just thought it would be fun for me to put it together.
Sometimes we surprise each other with what we're doing, but okay. You find some tearjerkers though.
I do. They find me. I think that's probably a better way of saying it. So this is also another short story, but I think we can all maybe relate to this one, in the sense that if we're aware a little bit more, we can see how this might be an experience that we would share. So this one's called The Hug. So this was about 6 years ago. I was in high school and walking from the cafeteria to the library on my spare period. I came across one of my little sister's friends on the way. We've only spoken a handful of times, and we really never were close, but I felt compelled to stop in front of her and ask her if she needed a hug. She broke down sobbing and clung to me as I hugged her. As it turns out, it was the anniversary of her close friend's death, and her friend always knew when she was sad and would always ask her if she needed a hug. I still have no idea what compelled me to go up to her and do that day, but I'm glad I did, and I was able to be there for her. So I've seen this in my own life, not necessarily directly the hug, but the connection. And I think
something just tells you to.
I think if you listen to your own intuition, and it sort of tells you, says, go do something, take a look at something, be part of someone's life in a moment. I mean, all the difference in the world is being made there. I think I can remember an experience when I was in a low part of my life, and I worked too hard. I think I threw myself into my work, but I would just have somebody just walked up to me, total stranger, never saw them again, just that one time. I didn't get the hug, but they asked me if I was okay, and they felt compelled to come over and talk to me, and I needed that. And that conversation lasted all of probably 2 minutes, but I always remember how I felt at the end of it. I could not pick that person out of anything in the world today. But that person made a huge, huge difference in my life. And I think we are here for each other. I mean, we've talked about this very often. There's a collective spirituality that we all share. And I think if we are able to look at that, as opposed to looking at differences and all the other things that we tend to focus very heavily on, I mean, this world would be such a nicer place. We would really have that sense of community and family. And I think to me, this is a beautiful example of how a person, I mean, she knew this other person, right? I mean, her little sister's friend, but not really well. But she trusted her intuition, walked up and said, I think this person needs a moment of my time. And that moment, I mean, I can guarantee you they will both remember that moment for their lifetime.
I remember a moment that I've had with someone.
Okay.
So in South Africa, I was in like a thrift bookstore.
Okay.
Was having a particularly hard day. I was just looking at books, and this woman came up to me and said, I know I don't know you, but I'm going to be open with you. Something tells me I need to pray for you today."
Wow. Okay.
And I kind of looked very puzzled at them. It's like, "Oh, introducing myself. Hi, I'm Savannah. Sure. What makes you feel like you want to pray for me today?" It's like, something tells me that there's someone in your life that's not very present.
Okay.
And I told them, yes, I do have a parent that unfortunately I'm not very close with. And they said, okay, well, I'd love to pray over you. So they
Okay.
did. And I do remember that very strongly and shedded some tears. But yes, there are some people out there that
Intuitive.
do feel that pull to come to someone. And again, I never saw them again. They were very religious.
Okay.
So it was
Well, this person that I met was the same way.
okay.
You know, it's basically they basically said that God asked me to come over and talk to you.
But it ties into spirituality, which
Of course
so
it is.
many
Yeah,
people are
it's
so
there.
unaware of. And although I wasn't necessarily religious, I still very much felt the spiritual side connect to this moment with this person.
Mm.
And I mean, the second that they kind of said, something told me to come to you, I physically feel it like in my heart. It's like a pull. It's very hard to explain. Like some people will say my heart stopped. You literally feel like a tugging, a feeling, and then your energy just, it's almost like radiating and buzzing is the only way that I can describe it.
Mhm.
And you just let your guard down immediately because you feel like, oh my gosh, this is a very safe moment right
Exactly,
now.
and that is, I think, a great sign.
Mhm.
Now, however, if you feel like you need to run to the hills, because this
Please
person,
do.
please do.
No, please
It
don't
is.
just have random conversations with just anyone off of the street. But this is, again, intuition tells you everything that you need to know.
And I have to say, there are so many people that would react that way, and I think there's a sense of caution this world brings to a perfect stranger walking up to you, right,
Mm.
and having a conversation with you. And I don't think that's unfounded, but I'm happy that you had that moment. I'm glad I had that as well,
Mhm.
because I think it was a time where we each needed it.
It's very hard for a complete stranger to walk up to someone that they don't even know and
Mhm.
they have no idea what response they're going to get.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
I
very
have
true.
no doubt that people like this have gone up to some people and gotten a horrible response or just completely being ignored.
But defensive as
S-
well, I'm sure. Yeah.
So it is, they are doing hard work. That's all I can say. But the fact that, that it doesn't stop them and they keep going, they are doing the world's greatest work and the universe thanks them for that, I'm sure.
And the feeling that you have when you've made a difference in a person's life. Um, yeah. I'm going to share a very personal story. The next one, after the next one here.
Okay.
And again, it is something that where you step out and do something beyond necessarily your comfort zone, and you can make a very big difference in someone's life. So this last one is called The White Feathers.
Mm.
So, and it's very interesting because of the way it was put together. So, written from the author's perspective here. My mother always told me to look for signs. She was very spiritual, not religious, but she did believe in angels and spirit guides and all that. I never believed in any of that stuff. She would always tell me that all of these entities came from heaven and would send you signs so long as you were looking for them. License plate numbers, radio stations, headlines on newspapers, and of course, white feathers. She always told me that to ask my angels for guidance whenever I was having trouble and to look for white feathers. Well, I joined the military a few years ago and got shipped to boot camp. I was an underachiever. I was the underachiever of all my siblings, so it was the only thing worthwhile I had done with my life until that point. And I needed to make myself and my family proud. I had to prove that I could do it. I injured my hip during a training exercise near the end, and I was terrified of not being able to complete my training and being sent back home as a failure. We had a 20-mile ruck march with a grueling 5 days on the field coming up, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it on my bad hip. So, as a desperate reach, I asked my angels for guidance. And I kid you not, 2 minutes later, I walked over to my bunk just to see what's lying on the blanket was a little white feather. Started seeing them everywhere, on the floor, on my uniform, on my gear, even outside. I don't know if it's just that I never noticed them before, or maybe the pillows in the bays were getting beat up after being used for months, and I kept seeing them. So I marched my 20 miles, did those 5 days, passed my final PT with flying colors.
Mm.
White feathers.
Everyone has their own sign.
And so I do remember the idea of this concept about angels with white feathers, and you might choose to say an angel is an entity. You might choose to say an angel is part of God sending something down. But I think there's a presence there that the angel represents in every form. And I think it's beautiful that he was a skeptic and he now all of a
Is it a
sudden.
he?
I'm guessing yes.
Okay.
I mean, that's just an assumption because there's nothing in the story that actually says it was a he. I just assumed, but I mean, it could have been a she as well. So, but
It's very unfortunate that they felt the need to please their family. Unfortunately, being the underachiever of the rest of the siblings, I do
yeah,
feel what it would be like to be compared to your siblings.
unfortunately, I think it happens more often than not in
Yes,
families, especially with large
larger.
number of siblings.
But you know what? I'm happy they did that for them,
Well,
and they will remember that moment of pushing forward when they needed to do it most.
they did, and I think they're going to remember and see the white feathers everywhere, particularly when they need them. And I mean, for those of skeptics out there, they'll say, "Well, it's just a bird, right?" Or it's just the pillows that sort of empty themselves out.
Yes, well, skeptics are
Will
skeptics.
be
So I guess
skeptics.
you guys skeptics should not be watching this video.
No, they should be. We're going to help them. So,
Well, if they've stayed this far, I hope you have.
yeah, and to me, this story was very poignant because uh, we all need, I think, in our moments of trials, a little bit of help or encouragement. And I think in our case here, the author was kind of a converted skeptic, to understanding that we do have them out there if we look for them. We've seen it. I mean, it's like in our lives, there are things out there. If you're subtly looking for them or you're aware and your mind zeroes in on it, you're going to be able to see some of these things out there. I don't know if it's going to be feathers for you, or it might be a number, or it might be
Well,
something else.
I have a story for the audience then.
Okay.
So
yours.
how numbers came to you and I.
Yes.
So we went shopping for a family car. So we landed on
Oh gosh, that's very
a
true.
big enough car for the family and lost us for a very long time. And we got the license plate.
That's very true.
And I won't say the numbers, but these are numbers to Omar and I that have stuck with us since the very beginning of our relationship.
Yes, that's very true. Very
And
true.
it turns out the end of the license plates are those exact numbers. So, I mean, it's like we love our license plates.
we noticed it, and
Again,
we
you
went
can do
looking for it.
custom license plates, but at this point, it's like, why would we? These numbers
No,
came
this
to us.
this
Let's just
came.
take
Let's
it.
just take it.
So, I don't believe that it was just again, like something a skeptic would think of. I do believe that it came to us because it was meant to come to us,
Mhm.
and I appreciate it all that much more when I do see it.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'll share this story. This happened many, many years ago for me. I was actually selling something on Facebook Marketplace. So it's probably like a decade or plus ago, probably even longer. And the person that was looking for it was trying to put together a memorial for, not a memorial actually. It was to help her mother through hospice.
Hmm.
So she and her husband were trying to set something up, and she was moving her mother to hospice. And I'm trying to remember what it was. It was probably a table or something like that. Um, and she was very, very. You could feel her energy. The loss or potential. I mean, not potential, but the inevitable loss of her mom was a huge, huge part of how she was feeling, and she was grieving, watching her mom on her last weeks, essentially, in this difficult stage. And so I offered to drop it off. I wouldn't normally do that for a sale. Um, and she was immensely grateful that I would go down and give her the table that I had, and try to help a little bit. Later on, she did let me know that she was very grateful for that, and her mom did pass away. And she wanted to share with me that kindness that I had to actually take that step down there made a huge difference for how, in this moment of being trying to deal with everything happening, was an enormous part. Uh, then afterwards, when I did find out her mother passed away, I offered to make them a tray of lasagna if they needed to have something during the time when they were grieving, essentially for her and her family. And I also did drop that off as well. And she looked at me and she says, "You're very very much at peace." And I explained to her, well, there's a sense of peace that comes with your spirituality. And so she was eager to hear a bit more about that. And I would share with her about life journeys and understanding, how we connect with souls. And it was something she needed to hear at the time. I don't normally go out and have a discussion with somebody unless they sort of ask. This is about just keeping people's own sacred space wherever they want to have it. And she started doing her own little research. And then occasionally she would reach out and ask me if it was a sign. There are signs out there that her mom was still watching over her. And I sincerely believed it. I did not know what would be a sign for her, but I believed it. One of the things was white feathers. Um, and then the second one was the color green. And she says, well, I keep seeing these things everywhere. And I looked at her and I said, well, you're beginning to see her trying to connect with you in a way that you and you only would know. And it was during that moment that I think even a year or two later, and didn't keep in touch with the family, and she wrote me back and she said, I always remember when you came down with the lasagna and you showed up at 11:11, which is it's considered an angel sign, but it's not something I obviously planned. I didn't take a look at the time. It wasn't anything I was doing. I just happened to show up at that time, and she ended up thanking me a few times, and then eventually, she moved in her direction, with her family, and for me, it was you realize that you were able to make a difference in somebody's life at that particular moment at a time that was necessary.
I think
And
that's because you stopped what you were doing, everything that you were doing to give. And I think that's what we need to do so much more.
And you know what? I loved being able to do that. It was something I could do. It was not like it was difficult or complicated, but it was nice to be able to show that we are one community, through every part of our journey. So this is why the white feathers was such an interesting story to me to read, to see, someone else have that experience as well. And I'm sure there are probably others who have white feathers out there that they would know about.
Let us hear about your signs and ways that you connect back to the earth and your spiritual connections to people that you may know or may not know.
And if you like stories like this, we will endeavor to find more, and we will share a little bit more about us, a little more about other people's experiences, and realize that you're not alone. You are part of a very, very big community of souls out there that deserves a connection.
Do embrace it.
Yes. And then last but not least, please
like, subscribe, and share.
And do share. And if this hopefully brings you some value as we're figuring out all of our journeys together, we are very happy for that.
Okay. It was wonderful having you at the Munch Corner podcast.
Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.